We watch matter change its state literally every single day. You boil water for pasta, or you watch frost completely take over a window pane in the winter. But what is actually happening to all those invisible molecules under the hood?
Think about these two real-world mysteries for a second. Why does a block of dry ice just vanish? It completely disappears into thin air without ever leaving a messy puddle on your table. And on the flip side, why does a sealed pressure cooker manage to cook a tough piece of meat in a fraction of the time it takes an ordinary open pot on the exact same stove? Well, we're going to solve both of these puzzles today using the undeniable laws of thermodynamics.
By the end of this explainer, you are going to deeply understand the actual mechanics of phase changes. You'll learn exactly how to read phase diagrams like a true physicist, and you'll understand the dynamic laws of equilibrium and vapor pressure. We're going to cover the core concepts, the rules behind them, and exactly how to apply them to the world around you. Let's start with Section 1, the real gas reality. Before we can understand complex phase transitions, we really need to look at how real molecules actually behave when things start getting chilly. You've probably heard of an ideal gas, right? It's this theoretical textbook model where we pretend gas molecules just bounce around at high temperatures and never really interact with each other. And in that ideal world, volume and temperature are perfectly directly related. But here is the real gas reality. At lower temperatures, those molecules start to slow down. Suddenly, their interactions matter a whole lot. They get really close together, they start to stick, and a dramatic decrease in volume occurs. This is condensation. The substance is actually changing from a gas into a liquid. Now, you might be asking a very logical question right about now. Wait a minute, if cooling a gas continuously shrinks its volume, what happens if we keep cooling it to absolute zero? Does the volume ever actually hit zero? Well, the answer is a firm no. Even when a liquid cools way down and locks into a solid, the volume never reaches absolute zero. Why? Because the molecules themselves have a physical size. They take up actual finite space in the universe, so you can never just crush them down to nothing. Moving right along to Section 2, graphing pressure and volume. So now that we understand real gases take up space and interact with each other, how do physicists actually map out these behaviors? Enter the PV diagram. This is simply a graph plotting pressure on one axis versus volume on the other. I want you to visualize this diagram literally like a topographical map. On this map, we have these curved lines called isotherms. Every single point on one of those isotherms represents the exact same unchanging temperature. As pressure goes up, volume goes down along that curve. But remember our real gas reality. At lower temperatures, these lines stop looking perfectly smooth. The gas isn't behaving ideally anymore, it's actually starting to turn into liquid. And that brings us to a fascinating limit. It's a concept called the critical point. This is a specific, critical temperature above which a liquid simply cannot exist. I don't care how hard you squeeze it or how much immense pressure you apply, past this critical temperature, the gas molecules are just so energetic that they absolutely refuse to condense together into a liquid state. They'll have the density of a liquid, sure, but they fundamentally remain a gas. Let's make this a bit easier with some hard data. Just look at the rows for water and carbon dioxide here. Water has a massive critical temperature of over 374 degrees Celsius. But look at carbon dioxide. Its critical temperature is just 31.1 degrees Celsius. Above 31 degrees, CO2 will never, ever liquefy, totally regardless of the pressure. Let's do a quick retention check to make sure we're on the same page. Based on the rule we just learned, can carbon dioxide be liquefied at a standard room temperature of 20 degrees Celsius? Think about it for a second. Yes, it absolutely can, because 20 degrees is strictly below its critical temperature of 31.1 degrees. So applying a high enough pressure will successfully force those CO2 molecules together into a liquid. That brings us to Section 3, reading phase diagrams. Okay, we've mastered pressure and volume. Let's swap out volume for temperature and unlock an even more powerful tool. This is the phase diagram, or a PT graph, mapping pressure against temperature. If you know the pressure and the temperature of a substance, this map tells you exactly what phase it's currently in, solid, liquid, or gas. But the real magic happens right on the lines separating these phases. You see, these lines aren't just solid brick walls. They are delicate, active zones of coexistence. On the line between liquid and gas, for example, both phases exist together in a perfect balance. And this brilliantly illustrates the answer to our very first mystery, the pressure cooker effect. In an open pot on your stove, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius because the atmospheric pressure is just standard. But when you seal a pressure cooker, as step 1 shows, the pressure inside skyrockets. Look at the phase diagram in your mind's eye for a second. As pressure goes up, that boiling point line moves to the right. Step 2, the water doesn't boil at 100 degrees anymore. It stays a liquid up to much, much higher temperatures. Step 3, your food is now sitting in superheated liquid water, which means it cooks vastly faster. Mystery solved.
Section 4. Sublimation and triple points.
Let's move to some of the absolute most extreme and exotic behaviors you can find on the phase diagram. First up is sublimation. This is the ultimate shortcut in physics. It's when a substance changes directly from a solid into a gas, completely bypassing the liquid phase. And boom, here is the answer to our dry ice mystery. Carbon dioxide sublimates at standard atmospheric pressure, so that frozen chunk of CO2 doesn't melt into a liquid puddle on your table. Instead, it skips the liquid phase completely and vaporizes straight into CO2 gas. Now, if you trace all the boundary lines on a phase diagram down to where they finally intersect, you find what's called the triple point. This is the singular exact pressure and temperature where a substance exists as a solid, a liquid, and a gas, all at the exact same time. It is literally the ultimate balancing act in physics. For water, this happens at just barely above 0 degrees Celsius, at a tiny, tiny fraction of normal atmospheric pressure. Let's connect this back to real life with another quick puzzle. Imagine you take a glass of water with ice cubes in it and you sit it outside on a really hot summer day. As long as there is ice in that glass, the liquid water stays at exactly 0 degrees. So why doesn't the water warm up immediately from the hot summer air? To figure that out, we look at Section 5, the physics of equilibrium.
To answer why that ice water doesn't warm up immediately, we have to look at the mechanics of what we call thermal equilibrium. But before we explain the ice, I really need to clear up a massive misconception. We use the words gas and vapor interchangeably all the time in normal life, but in physics, they are completely different things. A gas refers to the state of matter when it's above its boiling temperature. But a vapor is the gas phase when it exists at a temperature below its boiling point. Think of the steam rising off a hot cup of coffee or the water vapor that's constantly floating in the air around us.
Now back to our ice water and this idea of equilibrium. Imagine a sealed container of water. Step 1, some liquid molecules are energetic enough to escape as vapor. Step 2, those vapor molecules bounce around, hit the surface, and condense right back into liquid. When the rate of molecules escaping perfectly matches the rate of molecules returning, that is dynamic equilibrium. It's this busy, totally active two-way street. And the exact same thing is happening in your glass of ice water. The ice is melting into liquid, and the liquid is freezing onto the ice at the exact same rate. This locks the overall temperature at 0 degrees until all the ice is finally gone. And our final stop, Section 6, Dalton's Law of Pressures. For our final concept today, we are shifting focus away from single pure substances and looking at the messy, mixed gases of the real world. When you have a mixture of gases, like the actual air in the room you are sitting in right now, which is a mix of nitrogen, oxygen, CO2, and water vapor, how do we calculate the pressure? Well, Dalton's law of partial pressures keeps it beautifully simple. It states that every individual gas acts completely independently. If you want the total pressure of the room, you just add up the partial pressure of the nitrogen plus the partial pressure of the oxygen, and so on. They don't interfere with each other, they just neatly stack together to create the total atmospheric pressure that's pressing against us right now. Before we wrap up, let's quickly summarize the key takeaways we've conquered today. You now know that phase changes aren't just about temperature. Pressure is equally crucial. You know that critical points set the absolute physical limits for liquefying gases. You understand that sublimation is the exact reason dry ice skips the puddle phase entirely. You know that equilibrium isn't some frozen, dead state, but a dynamic, molecular two-way street. And you know that Dalton's law lets us easily just add up partial pressures in mixed gases. I want to leave you with one final, incredibly practical brain teaser to prove that phase changes are truly all about energy transfer. When a devastating winter frost is about to hit Florida, orange farmers will intentionally go out and spray their fragile orange trees with liquid water. Why on earth would they completely cover their crops in freezing water right before freezing temperatures hit? Well, the answer lies in the latent heat energy that gets released when that water turns to ice. But to fully understand how that works, you'll need to join me for our next explainer on the mathematics of heat transfer. Keep questioning the physical